Shalom Aleichem from Yerushalayim. Baruch Hashem, we're now in the month of Tammuz, the Hebrew month of Tammuz. A good chodesh to everybody, a good month. And Baruch Hashem, thank God. Last week we celebrated the Pidyon Haben of our grandson. That means our son, Avraham, and his wife Miri, they had a baby boy. And if a baby boy is the opening of the woman's womb for the first time, in other words, there was nothing previous and no, God forbid, miscarriage or anything prior, but it's the opening of the womb is a baby boy. So then that baby boy has to be, when he's 30 days old, he needs to be redeemed. What does it mean, redeemed? Just in brief, the service in the Beis Hamikdash, in the Holy Temple, was originally meant to be done by the firstborn, and later it was transferred to the Levim and the Kohanim, to the Levites and the Kohanim. So therefore, somebody who has a firstborn baby boy has to redeem him from a Kohen, meaning he has to give a Kohen 5 silver coins. And the Kohen, to this day, will say to the father, he'll say to him, would you give me 5 silver coins, or would you prefer that I keep your baby boy? So even though really everybody gives the coins and does not leave their precious new babies with the Kohen, but that is the ceremony that is performed, and we had a very special Kohen who was the Kohen there, a great man, a great sage, and he explained to us something that's very interesting, which is it says that a Pidyon Haben, the first word Pidyon is from the word Pei Daled Yud Vav Nun. Pei Daled is 84, so it's an ancient tradition that someone who eats the meal of celebration, the Sudas Mitzvah of a Pidyon Haben, it's as though they have fasted 84 fasts. In other words, they've somehow achieved the spiritual heights of 84 fasts. So Rav Cohen asked, how is such a thing possible? Why is it even possible that a person eats this feast and it's as though they fasted a single fast? So he explained, in short, in brief, he explained that when young parents, and they have now they're given a gift, they have a baby boy, and they're so happy, and they're so thrilled, and it's the opening of the womb, and there's a tendency in people in general to feel that when we put a lot of effort and energy into something or work hard for something, to feel as though it is kochi ve'otzim yadi, in the words of the Chumash. It's as though it's my power and the work of my hand, hence my handiwork, that has brought about this result. So as Jews, what we do instead is we make a statement, a public statement, a declaration in front of everybody, in front of the Kohen, that or the Kohen says, would you like to give me 5 coins? Would you like to give me a few hundred shekels for your son, or do you want me to keep your son? In other words, it's a declaration in public of saying that it's a gift from Hashem. Everything we have is a gift from Hashem. And this particular new baby boy, as much as the young parents are in love with him, but they realize right away and declare, this is a gift from Hashem. This is a gift. This is something we want to appreciate, be thankful for, and in public they say this, and they give the Kohen his 5 silver coins in order to keep their baby son, and which also connects us, of course, to our history, and the whole issue of the firstborn is connected to the Exodus from Egypt and many, many other things that we won't go into at this right now. But at any rate, it's a beautiful ceremony, and the statement that Rav Cohen was making was that by making this declaration, by therefore admitting and with a full heart that this is really a gift, and we really want, as parents, want to appreciate and thank Hashem for the honor of being entrusted with this new soul, and it is really why it's considered to be as though one is fasting or reaching the spiritual refinement of somebody who has fasted 84 fasts at the time when they are actually enjoying the feast at a Pidyon Ben, at the after redeeming a firstborn son. So I hope that we can all reach that appreciation every day in everything that happens to us, that it's all really coming as a gift. As it says in the Shulchan Aruch, we should always accustom our mouth to saying, Kol Rachmana Avid Tava Avid. Everything Hashem does is ultimately for the good, and therefore we can live that way a life full of happiness and as wealth and wealthy. As we know, it says, who is wealthy? He who is happy with his portion. So Mirz Hashem, have a wonderful Tammuz, a good month of Tammuz, and we should all be blessed with good news, happy tidings, and hopefully the unification and peace of all the Jewish people.
So how does the fact that when does the father or the mother, they come to this appreciation that everything is from Hashem, that's a present from Hashem? When?
So when do they come to it is really, I would say, it's brought out by the fact that they have to now at 30 days take their son in public, in front of all these people, and in front of the Kohen, and the custom is they put him on on a platter, and decorate the platter and so forth. So they're kind of at that moment, they're really in public, sort of, they're declaring, this is not just our son. This is not just a baby that is our own personal joy, pride and joy. They're really saying, no, Hashem gave us a mitzvah to do with this boy, and it involves we have to get a Kohen, and we have to get people together. We have to make a meal. We have to give the Kohen money. So in other words, the first thing is what does Hashem want us to do?
Yeah, but they do that with the bris milah. They've already done it with the bris milah. So why is this anything better?
Oh, true. Why is it even more than a bris milah?
Well, I mean, what's the connection between now Hashem? How should they come to realize? I mean, look, I assume they very much do appreciate it, but the limit you were saying is that through this whole process, that's how we come to appreciate and realize that everything is a gift from Hashem. How? I mean, there are a lot of mitzvahs, even like chinuch, there's mitzvahs of everything can be a gift. But how does this specific Pidyon Ben, how does that connect to the parents realizing that it's a gift?
It's a wonderful question, first of all, and because I was also wondering in terms of bris milah, because bris, as we know, also is actually involves inflicting pain on a little 8-day-old new baby. So it really is very the bris is very difficult for that reason. Perhaps by the Pidyon Haben, by the redemption of the firstborn, there's something. To be able to put my finger on it is difficult because you're asking. It's a very, very fine. It's a very good question you're asking, and it does say in the Midrash. It says that one of the reasons the world was created, Bereshis bara Elokim, one of the reasons Hashem created the world, it says, what's Reshis? What's first? So first is the Torah. First is Israel, the Jewish people. But first it says is also the Bikorim. Now the Bikorim literally was not the baby; it's the first fruits.
Yeah, but yeah.
So there's something about I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about the first fruit, and in a certain way, a firstborn male child because it's also true, by the way, also of a firstborn, also male animals as well.
But something first about is more precious.
Something right. Something about the first or the first fruit that was. It says the whole world in the Midrash there. The whole world was worth being created for that first fruit.
Yeah, well, maybe it's because like that child really doesn't really belong to them. It really belongs to the base of Mikdash, and because they're doing the Pidyon, only then does it really sort of come under their jurisdiction, or they can keep it really.
Yes.
So maybe that point, that really it's not their child. It's like this is a child that belongs to Hashem. It's like there's quite an that fact is quite a huge like concept or point to absorb or appreciate. So once a person appreciates that, then maybe he comes to realize, well, look, we have to appreciate what we've got because it's really a present from Hashem. Because it doesn't really belong to us. It really.
That's excellent. I think you put your finger on it.
Now, what about the fact about the it's a fast that 84 paid? Okay. So you're saying that because of this we come to a higher level as people, and then it's like we fasted because the person who fasts he comes to a higher spiritual level. So, but Pei Dalid from Pidyon, right? Pidyon Ben.
Yes.
But that's a bit like what? It's a chazal or what? I mean, what's the connection between? Why should it be 84 fasts?
Right.
You could say like okay, I made a breast, and okay. So, what is the connection between 84 fasts and?
That question, actually Rav Cohen opened with that question. He said, what's the source for this 84 fasts? And the answer was, there is no source, meaning it's not in the Talmud, the Bavli Talmud, the Yerushalmi Talmud, or in any of the Midrashim, or the Sifri, the Sifra. So there is no earlier source. There are ancient sources, but not from the original Chazal. So why? So 84 is very hard to answer specifically. What you really brought out, the point you brought out, which was really a great point, is that really it's like the sun, in a sense, is not theirs. It really like belongs to Hashem, to Hekdesh, to the temple, and they're redeeming it from Hashem, from the temple, so there will be their own son. So then one could say that therefore the meal, because a meal is sort of one gives oneself personal pleasure and satisfaction. So fasting is the opposite of that. It's elevating oneself by, in a certain sense, removing oneself from physical pleasure and from the physical things of the world, like we do on Yom Kippur. So, but 84, that already is beyond me to be able to answer.
Well, also, I mean, the point here as well, I mean, quite interesting is that actually by eating is like you're fasting. Well, on the Erev Yom Kippur, we also have that as well.
Yes.
So, which is quite a bit of it's a contradiction. How can you eat and it's like you fasted? I mean, it's exactly the opposite. When you fast, you fast. When you eat, it's. So how can it be like you fasted?
Right. So one of the Perushim I saw on that explains that because to eat l'shem shamayim, to really eat in the way that it says, for example, the manna was eaten in the desert, is a very, very high spiritual level. That is in a certain sense almost perhaps impossible in our generation. So to say that our eating is so l'shem shamayim that it reaches the level of being the equivalent of a fast. So maybe in that sense, in other words, really if we could eat at such, because eating is a very, very intimate relationship with Hashem. Really, I mean, eating is Hashem every day fulfilling our needs, and it also is what keeps our soul connected to our body. It says that the food not only gives nutrition to the physical body, but also even to the soul as well. So if we can do that, very purely, as a way of getting closer to Hashem, it's a very, very high level. So I think by saying that our eating is the equivalent of fasting, is in a certain sense saying that our eating on that day, it reaches that sort of spiritual
level.
height.
Even though eating is a physical thing, that eating, if you do it with pure intentions, then you can actually do it in a way which is very spiritual, and it's like you actually fast.
To that degree, to the degree that it's as though you're actually separating oneself from the physical, which unfortunately usually the physical tends to bring us down rather than elevate.
Well, look, I mean, Rabbi, I go to all these functions, and I must be honest. I mean, they have like remarkable. The food they serve is remarkable. I mean, these beautiful. They have kugel. Well, I mean, it depends when it is, but the desserts, and it's amazing.
Right.
So to actually, I mean, achieve a level of spirituality there, I mean, I have to confess, it's like very difficult.
Right, it is. It is very difficult. And Rav Shlomo Bravda, Zechatzadi Bracha, he used to, in some ways, poke a little bit of, in a good-hearted way. He was a wonderful tzaddik. Poke a little good-hearted fun at those occasions. He'd sort of say, it's a bit over the top, shall we say. So if one is eating and yet it's spiritually as though they're fasting, it's really saying it's reaching a very, very high level in terms of the relationship to physical pleasure.